Jonah and the Big Fish. Long ago, in a land near the sparkling Mediterranean Sea, there lived a prophet named Jonah. He was a man who knew God's voice, and one peaceful morning, that voice called to him with an important message. "Jonah," God said gently, "I want you to go to the great city of Nineveh. The people there have lost their way, and I need you to tell them to turn back to kindness and goodness." But Jonah's heart grew heavy. Nineveh was far away, and the people there had hurt his own people. He didn't want them to receive God's mercy, so Jonah made a choice. He would run away. He hurried down to the port of Joppa, where wooden ships rocked gently in the harbor. The salty breeze filled the air as sailors called to one another, preparing for their journeys. Jonah found a ship sailing to Tarshish, in the completely opposite direction from Nineveh. He paid his fare, climbed aboard, and as the ship pulled away from shore, he went below deck and fell into a deep, exhausted sleep. For a while all was peaceful. The ship glided smoothly across the calm waters. But then the wind began to rise. Dark clouds gathered overhead, and the sea began to churn and swell. The sailors worked frantically, trying to steady the ship as waves crashed over the sides. They called out to their gods, but the storm only grew fiercer. Down below, Jonah slept on until the captain found him. "How can you sleep at a time like this?" the captain cried. "Wake up and pray to your God. Perhaps he will save us." The sailors decided to cast lots to discover who had brought this trouble upon them. When the lot fell to Jonah, he knew he could run no longer. With a heavy but honest heart, Jonah told them everything. "I am running from the Lord, the God who made the sea and the land," Jonah said quietly. "This storm is because of me. Throw me into the sea, and it will become calm again. I don't want you to perish because of my disobedience." The sailors didn't want to do this terrible thing, but as the storm raged fiercer, they finally, sorrowfully, lifted Jonah and cast him into the churning waters. Immediately the sea grew calm. The wind ceased. Peaceful silence returned. Jonah sank down into the deep blue waters. Seaweed wrapped around him as he descended into the quiet depths. But God had not forgotten Jonah. The Lord sent a great fish, enormous and gentle, that swallowed Jonah whole. Inside the belly of the fish, Jonah found himself in a space like a great, dark cave. It was warm and safe, rocking gently with the fish's movements through the ocean. There, in that unexpected sanctuary, Jonah had time to think. For 3 days and 3 nights, Jonah lived inside the fish. In the quiet darkness he prayed. He thought about his fear, his anger, and his running away. He remembered God's love and faithfulness. Slowly his heart began to change. "Lord," Jonah prayed, "when I had lost all hope, you heard my cry. You saved me from the depths. What I have vowed I will fulfill. Salvation comes from you alone." And God heard Jonah's prayer. On the 3rd day, the great fish swam toward the shore. As it reached the shallow waters near the beach, the fish opened its enormous mouth and gently placed Jonah on the dry sand. Jonah stood up, breathed the fresh air, and felt the warm sun on his face. He was alive. He had been given a second chance. Once again, God's voice came to Jonah. "Go to Nineveh and give them my message." This time Jonah obeyed. He walked for days until he reached the massive city of Nineveh. It was so large it took 3 days to walk through it. Jonah began to call out God's message. "In 40 days, Nineveh will be destroyed unless you change your ways. Something miraculous happened. The people of Nineveh believed God's message. From the greatest to the smallest, from the king to the children, everyone turned away from violence and cruelty. They chose kindness and mercy instead. Even the king stepped down from his throne, dressed in humble clothes, and called for everyone to change their hearts. When God saw how the people of Nineveh had truly changed, His great compassion poured out. He forgave them and did not destroy their city. But Jonah became angry. He had wanted Nineveh to be punished. He sat outside the city, upset and hot under the blazing sun. God caused a leafy plant to grow up and shade Jonah, bringing him comfort. Jonah was grateful for this small kindness. The next day, God sent a worm that caused the plant to wither. The sun beat down on Jonah again, and he grew angry about losing the plant. Then God spoke gently to Jonah. You cared about this plant, though you did not make it grow. Should I not care about Nineveh, that great city with more than 120,000 people who don't yet know right from wrong, and many animals too? In that moment, Jonah finally understood. God's compassion was bigger than he had imagined. It reached to everyone, even enemies, even those who seemed unworthy. God's love was like the vast ocean itself, deep and wide and endless. And so Jonah learned that obedience to God meant trusting in divine compassion, even when it was hard to understand. The story of the great fish became a story of second chances, of God's patient love, and of mercy that flows to all people. Rest now and remember, like Jonah, we are all held in God's loving care, even in the deepest waters.